Hi, welcome to Habas Kitchen. In today's video I'm going to show you how to make easy vegan chocolate brownies. So to get started we'll go through the ingredients. There'll be 75 ml of oil, I'm going to use vegetable oil. There'll be 200 grams of vegan dark chocolate, 170 grams of self-raising flour, 3 heaped teaspoons of cocoa powder, 180 grams of sugar. I'm just using normal white sugar, but you can use caster if you wish. And there'll be 230 ml of any plant-based milk, such as almond, which is what I'm using, or you could use soy or oat milk. It's best to use unsweetened. And then a teaspoon of vanilla extract and just 100 grams of pecans. So optionally you can add some salt to that as well. And I'm also going to use some coconut oil, and that's just for greasing the tin. So speaking of the tin, that's one of the other things we'll need. So I'm using a 10 by 6 inch tin, but you can use a square one if you wish. That would be 8 inch by 8 inch. Also, you need a large mixing bowl, and then just a small saucepan with a bowl, and that's for melting the chocolate. So to get started we need to preheat the oven. Now it's going to be 180 degrees centigrade or 160 fan assisted or 350 Fahrenheit. And we also need to prepare the baking tin. Now I'm using coconut oil, but obviously you can use baking powder if you prefer to do that. It's probably a bit too much. If you do that, it allows you to lift the brownies out easier once they're baked. I just prefer to save a bit of paper and just grease the tin with coconut oil. Okay, so we can just set that aside because we don't need it just yet. So next we need to melt the chocolate. So to do that I need to bring some water to the boil. It doesn't need to be loads of water, just enough to boil for sort of 5 minutes. So what I've done is I've got 150 grams of chocolate. Now the other 50 grams we'll save for later. So I'm just going to melt that, and the idea here is that the hot water heats up the bowl and the bowl shouldn't be touching the water. And then it will just slowly melt the chocolate. So what we need to do is, as soon as the chocolate starts to deform, you need to then just keep stirring it, just keep moving it around. Until it's completely melted. So you can see that it doesn't take long to start melting, and you want to just keep the sort of nice glossy finish that there is there. And what you'll find is that you can take it off the heat just before it's completely melted, and then the bowl will still be hot, and it will prevent the chocolate from actually burning. It will just retain that nice glossy finish. So I'm going to take that off the heat now. So we can just set that aside just for a few minutes, and that will just cool down slightly and thicken up a little bit while we mix the rest of the ingredients. So large mixing bowl, weighing scales, and also I'm going to use a sieve for this part. It's more for the cocoa powder because that gets quite clumpy. Right, so to start with, 170 grams of self-raising flour. And then there's just 3 heaped teaspoons of cocoa powder. And it's obviously very important just to sieve that through, and it really just allows the cocoa powder to spread more evenly throughout the mixture. And then if you've got any big clumps, you can just use the spoon just to press those through, and I just break it back up into powder. Okay, so that's that done. So at this point I'll just add a little bit of salt as well, and the salt just sort of draws out more of the chocolatey flavour. So give that sort of bit of just a mix around, just to combine all of that. And we can add the sugar. So that's 180 grams of sugar, and as I said, you can use caster sugar, so whatever sugar you've got in the cupboard really. Okay, so that's all the dry ingredients. Again, just get the spoon out and just give that a good stir, so all those dry ingredients are well combined and sort of evenly distributed. Okay, so just before we start adding the wet ingredients, I'm going to use that remaining 50 grams of chocolate and just roughly chop it so that we've got sort of chocolate chips to mix in. That's just half of that bar. Then you can either break it up, or I just use a knife and just, as I said, just roughly chop. It doesn't need to be precise. Obviously you can control how big your chunks are. You can have more chunky or less chunky. If you wanted to make it extra nutty, you could actually add more pecans at this point as well. The 100 grams that we've got are going to be going on top of the brownie, so you could add extra and sort of mix them in with these chocolate chunks. Okay. All we need to do now is to add all the wet ingredients together, starting with the oil. So it was 75 millilitres of oil. And then 230 ml of the almond milk. There we go, so let's drop all of that in there. And then just 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. So we've got the melted chocolate. It's slightly cooled, sticking up a bit. Now what's going to happen is, as soon as you put it into here, because these ingredients are all cold, it's going to really thicken up, and it will sort of feel really sort of firm and sort of almost a bit sticky. So you just have to work with it, but just be aware that that's going to happen. So drop it straight in there. So make sure you get all of that chocolate out of the bowl. And then we can just drop the chocolate chunks straight into there as well, and give the whole thing a good mix. Okay. So give that a good mix to combine, and as I said, the melted chocolate really just starts to firm up straight away as soon as you add it to this. That's not a problem. You want it to be sort of almost sort of in between a batter and a dough. And you can see it's immediately just starts to thicken up. And you have to give it a good stir so that you just get all the lumps out, and so there's no sort of dry flour left over. Okay, so there we are, and we're ready to put that into the baking tin. We're going to pour that straight in. And then at this point, you just sprinkle the pecans on top. They should start to sink in a little bit. And if they don't, if you've got quite a sort of firm, stiff mixture, that's no problem. That'll just be different. Depends on sort of what chocolate you use. So different chocolates will have different consistencies. If your mixture is sort of quite firm, just press the pecans in a little bit, just so they sort of bed into the surface of the brownie. So that's ready to go into the oven. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in the oven for 20 minutes, so it's 20 to 25 minutes, and you need to do like a skewer test, so insert a skewer and then pull it out. And if you're looking for a gooey brownie, then you want some mixture still on the skewer, and if you're looking for a more firm brownie, then you want the skewer to come out with no mixture on it. So as I said, just 20 minutes and then check after that. So that's now coming out of the oven at 20 minutes. And what I'm going to do is just stick it. I don't have a skewer, so I'm just going to put a knife in there and pull that out, and you can just see it's come out with a little bit of mixture on it, but that's fine. That's really how I want it. It sort of gives you a nice gooey, moist brownie. So that doesn't need to go back in, it's ready to go. Obviously it might feel a little bit soft as well on top, but it will firm up as it cools. So we're going to leave it to cool for about 5 minutes or so before taking it out, and then put it onto a wire rack and leave it for a further sort of 30 minutes at least. It is best to actually let it cool fully and then put it in the fridge. That allows the chocolate chunks to firm up as well, so you get the sort of the chunkiness of those chocolate chunks in there. So leave it until it's fully cooled to divide it up into, it makes about 16 slices. Obviously you can serve that with some vegan ice cream, or I find it goes really well with the coconut cream which you get in the tins. That works really well as a dessert, or you can just have it on its own. So that's the end of this video. Really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a go at the recipe yourself. If you do, leave any feedback in the comment section down below. I'll see you in another video.